Hi and welcome back to another video of JPlay. I am Marcus, and as you can see, today I'm starting my solo playthrough of A Feast for Odin, which is on my to playlist for quite a while actually. I mean, this game is almost, I think, 8 years old or so. And I never played it on camera. I played the base game a couple of times. I also played the solo game once or twice back in the day. And after asking my patrons if they would be interested seeing a playthrough by me of this game, they all said yes, I'm interested. And there's one warning or one caveat here. I'm using the German version of the game because that's the version I own, so bear with me. You will see some German terms every now and then. I will be using most likely a lot of the wrong terms that you may be accustomed to when you know the English version of the game, but again, bear with me, I will do the best I can, and in the end you may be able to learn some German with me. Reading some of these cards and yeah, spaces on the board. I think the game on its own is roughly, I don't know, 80-85% language independent. It's really down to some of these cards and of course the player rate here, but here for the most part it's really driven by icons, so I should be more or less okay. I already prepared the solo mode. I'm using, let's say, the normal version of the game, which is the longer version. So I'm playing on this side of the main game board, or rather player board, that is. So this is currently my main color here, my primary color. That's how you play the solo game. If you don't know how to play the solo game, you're really playing alone. There is no such thing as an automa. It's really something that you want to achieve the most amount of victory point. In the rule, they say reaching 100 points isn't terrible. It's much more difficult when you're playing the shorter version of the game, which I'm not doing. Even still, I'm not sure I will be able to pull off, let's call it victory here. I'm scoring 100 points. The last time I played this game, it's easily 3-4 years ago. So again, bear with me here. I'm no expert whatsoever. But again, I'm having my primary color here, which is blue. This is how I will start the game. At the end of each round, you will leave the, let's say, primary color on the game board. Then I will be using the secondary color here, the yellow one, which means the blue meeples, the blue Vikings, will then block the spaces on the main game board here, and then we are alternating these things. So at the end of the second round, I will then be removing the primary color again, but the yellow meeples will then be still on there. And yeah, again, you get the idea, and I will explain everything as I go as well. So I already prepared all of that. We all start the game. That's the same in a multiplayer game with one of these meat tokens. I already placed it here on the feast table here because I will be most likely using it to feed my Vikings at the end of the round. On top of that, I have my 3 starting weapons, the bow and arrow, the spear and the snare, I believe. And I'm starting with 1 occupation card from the base cards, basically from the light brownish ones, and that's, I believe, the farmhand in English. I do have the PDF of the Almanac on my mobile phone, so maybe checking some cards every now and then. And in order to play the farmhand here, we have to take the proper occupational action or do something else. I come to that. We have to pay, I know that's worth 1 victory point. And if we are successfully playing him, whenever we are doing a hunting some game here on the second space, so the space where we have to place 2 Vikings on, and again I will explain that, if that hunt then is successful, we are gaining some extra resources here, 1 silver and 1 fur, I believe that is. So I think not a bad starting card. It's one of the A cards here. I shuffled all the cards together. There's 3 decks in the base game, basically A, B and C. I never played with the Norwegians, I have to be honest, so I have to really change that, and that's also one of the reasons why I want to play this game solo here, to prepare myself with the base game and base game mechanics, and then maybe whatever next game night also bring Norwegians to the table. So again, finally get my hands on that. So I guess we should be pretty much good to go. As mentioned, I will explain the game as I go. We have a handy dandy, let's say, round overview here. We are playing over 7 rounds in the longer version of the game. The first thing that will always happen, we are getting new Vikings. That's the one thing that's a little bit different to the solo versus the multiplayer game. In the multiplayer game, you always get 1 extra Viking in the solo mode. As of round 2, you're getting 2 Vikings. But but that's basically also demonstrated here. So in this case, very easy thing to do. We are moving one Viking to our ting here, to our ting place, or our meeting space basically. Next, we are dealing with harvest. In not all the years we will have some harvest, but luckily during rounds and two we will get some harvest tokens. In the first round of the game which we are in, you can see that here we are getting all the resources ones that show this one symbol. So I think we have some peas here, flax, we get, I believe, some meat, we get, no, that's also flax, and we are getting some beans, and I believe that's that. No, only one pea. What am I doing here? So I think these three resources are here, and we can use them pretty well to feed our Vikings, and I think we already should be in a good position to feed our Vikings. We can already do that, and the rules really suggest you to do that during the game, basically to plan for feeding your Vikings. So with this, we already have taken care of things at the end of the round. I will come to that in a little bit more detail when we get there. We still have this flax here. We can use it as well, but I think we will be settled for the round to come. Next, we would be flipping some of the discovery tiles. We are not doing this during the rounds 1 and 2. This will start from round 3 through round 6, I believe, so we can skip over that. Next, we will draw a new random weapon and take it into our hand. It's another snare. Not sure if that helps us or not, but now we are coming to the meat of the game, which are the actions. So for the first round of the game, we will have 6 Vikings which we can place onto the main game board. And the amount of actions that you can take throughout the game might be a little bit overwhelming at first, but ultimately, when you get behind some of the iconography, things are very, let's say, repeated in itself, right? I mean, a lot of things, it's just more of the same. Something like this one here, simply take one of these fish, salmon or what it is. Here, for example, take a sheep or take a cow, things like that. In some cases, you have to convert some of the things. It's simply the sheer amount of things that you can do. Some actions, even though they are the same, a little bit more powerful when you go to the first column, second column, third column, and fourth column, and so on. And this is also something that is driving the game, because everything in the first column requires you to spend 1 Viking. Second column, 2 Vikings, 3 Vikings, and 4 Vikings respectively. The final 2 come with a bonus, so if you spend 3 Vikings, you are basically allowed to draw 1 extra occupation card from the deck. That's very nice. The fourth one is even cooler, as this one allows you to play 1 of your occupation cards into them and then take this effect, and you can immediately use that card, and you can play the card before or after you are taking the action. So in some cases, the card that you're playing will already benefit from the action that you are taking. So that's basically how the core mechanics of this game work. Very simple. You're placing Vikings 1 to 4, and you're immediately taking that action, and you're blocking that space for yourself or for any other player, right? Makes sense. Okay, this has taken me a while, and I'm still not sure if I'm making the wrong decisions or not. But again, I simply want to demonstrate the game with you, learn it, relearn it with you together, and see how things go from here, right? So I think with my first action, I want to go for the immigration and occupation. That's basically this row over here, and I think placing our first Viking onto this spot does make sense. First of all, we are getting 1 coin because that's the bonus for this space, so that's already cool. We can use these coins basically for all sorts of things, but I think I want to use it to go for a sheep or so a little bit later this round. But what's also more important, we are allowed to draw 1 occupation card into our hand. So here it is, and here we have the ship architect. So this is an anytime action basically, which we can take throughout your turn, even multiple times. So for 3 wood and 1 wool or 1 wool linen, we can basically exchange that for, what's the English name for that? A long ship, which is a nice one. I think this is, I think that's the best one we can get actually. So that's a cool card. Of course, we still have to play it first. For now, we will have to take it into our hand, but I take it. Then for our second action, I think I am going to play 1 to 2 cards into my display. Luckily, we do have 2 cards now. Oh, we have to place 2 Vikings here, of course. It's the second column. So let's play the farmhand. Let's play the ship architect in front of us. They will also give us 2 victory points at the end of the game. We're already at 2 out of 100. But of course, one of the main things that you have to do in this game is to cover up your basically player board here. All of these here are minus points at the end of the game. And pretty sure it's somewhere written how many those are. I could whatever calculate it through, but it's really a lot. So you have to really work towards your victory. So right now we basically have offset 2 of these minus to 1 points here. But yeah, we are just starting the game. Let's see how things go from here. And there will be other things, how we extra expansion boards and whatnot. But yeah, we still have 3 Vikings left. And for one, I think we are going into the mountains here. So this space allows me to take 2 resources from any one of the available mountain strips. Right now, at the start of the game, we have those 2. At the end of each round, we are adding 1 extra. And there might be things that will get simply removed from the game when they are somewhat depleted. But I will come to that. So now I get to choose any one of those mountain strips and I'm allowed to take 2 resources from it. And we have to start here from the left. Here we can get up to iron ore, which is nice. But here on this mountain strip, we could get to stone a little bit easy. And I think that's what I want to do. On the other hand, getting that extra iron is also pretty nice actually. So no, I think I talked myself into that. I will take 2 resources from this mountain strip here. And for now, we are simply adding them here to our general supply. Let's put it like this. The elk here, by the way, is the starting player token. Even though the starting player doesn't change in the solo game, I'm still using it because I think it's cute. With our last 2 remaining Vikings, we are going on a hunt. And we are going to the second column because, again, we want to use our farmhand here. His special ability only kicks in if we are going for the second column here, respectively. So let's do that. So we are rolling our first die of the game. In this case, it's the orange die. And all of these hunting things we want to roll low as possible. Ideally, again, or ultimately, we want to come to a 0. It's simply an 8-sided die from 1 to 8. So you might ask yourself, how can we get to 0 with a single die? This is where these resources are coming in. So for every resource we are spending that's matching those, either bow and arrow and or wood, we can reduce that number on that die. And we are allowed to roll up to 3 times, but once we are re-rolling, we have to forget the, let's say, earlier result. So that's kind of a push your luck element of the game. There is even a small paragraph in the rule that these kind of die rolls are somewhat, not really persona non grata, let's put it like this, in the game like this, but I really enjoy this. I like a little bit of randomness, and there are a lot of things how you can mitigate this anyway, so you're not really losing an awful lot if we are failing here. Even though I'm only rolling 1 die, I'm still using my Lego dice tower. Again, ideally I roll a 1 on my first result, then I will call it, and yeah, let's see how things go. We are rolling, that's a 5. A 5, I think we cannot make it because we only have 1 bow and arrow and we have 2 wood. So this would be a -3 on that die, would still not be enough. We have to bring it down to a 0. So we will have to keep on rolling anyway. That was our first roll. That's the second roll. That's an 8. That's even worse. So let's keep on rolling. And that's a 6. Okay, we failed. That's, of course, somewhat of a bummer. We have lost the entirety of our action, but there is a consolation prize in all of those actions here, and this does include the pillaging action as well. These symbols here not just tell you which resources you are allowed to use to improve your die roll, no, this is also the consolation prize. So in this case, we are getting 1 bow and arrow and we are getting 1 wood. So basically by strolling through the forest, hunting some game, even though we didn't find some animal, we did find, let's say, some time to collect some wood and yeah, get ourselves an additional bow and arrow. So the next hunting will be most likely more successful because we have just gained 2 extra modifiers here. But of course we have lost our 2 Vikings, and those were our final Vikings, which means we are ending the action phase. Next 2 are a little bit, frustrating actually, because I was somewhat hoping on being successful with that hunt, because then I could have really done something very meaningful. Now not so much. So we're moving over to determine the starting player in this multiplayer game. It's the last player to place a Viking. We skip over that. Now we're coming to income. This is determined by the, let's say, lowest visible number that we see here. Right now it's a 0, so we are getting 0 income. If we would have been successful with our hunt, for example, we would be getting this fur here. We could have placed it onto our board, and there are rules in which they tell you how you can, let's say, populate that board, but this would have been legal. Let's put it like this. We would have been allowed to cover up the 0. In this case, we would have gained 1 coin income. If we also would have, I don't know, covered up these 2 spaces here, you always have to cover up all the spaces to the left and to the, let's say, bottom of the respective coin you are covering up. In this case, we would have been getting 2 coins, and this is not bad at the end. So 1 coin is really the minimum that you want to reach, but I really failed miserably, so really can tell I haven't played this game for quite a while. But yeah, we didn't get that fur anyway, so we are sticking to the 0, so we're getting 0 silver out of this. That's kind of a bummer. The one thing that we could do now, though, because this is an anytime action, we did collect this 1 silver here, which we would allow us actually to place this here. That's an interesting thing. And now we would have covered it up and we would be getting 1 coin. But this is really a strange way. You really want to start off with something bigger here. So I think I'm not going to do that just yet, because then the tile laying that would come after it makes things a little bit more complicated with an individual one. With a 4 or something like that, I would have totally gone for that. Or let's say we would have been able to collect this treasure chest here, for example. This would have been amazing, of course. But yeah, next, our animals will procreate. We don't have any animals, so we skip over that. Now we have the feast. So we have to feed our Vikings, and you have to fill all the spaces that are left to your current, let's say, Viking track over here. So the more Vikings you get, the more you have to feed them. It's very thematically done in this case. I really like that a lot. And the way how this works is you see which colors you are allowed to place onto this table here. So you can, for example, not place orange next to orange. You have to always go in an alternating fashion like this: orange, red, red. You can place coins in here as well, so you're paying for that. So if there would be 1 extra space, I could have considered to place a coin here. You can place coins next to a coin. That is allowed. There are some more rules that you don't want the same food on the table. So if I have 2 peas, for example, the second piece, you would have to place it a little bit differently. But in this case, that was totally fine. We have completely fed our Vikings. We are not suffering from a tink penalty. So these things are simply removed from the game. But again, we have successfully fed our Vikings. Nicely done. Next, we would be getting some bonuses. These are also determined by your main player board, and the same is true. You can have these extension board, these longhouses here, for example. They will also give you extra stuff, but let's focus on the main board here. So if you're able to fully enclose these symbols here, like the meat or the wood or the iron ore here, in this case you would gain that. You are allowed to build over this, but then you're losing the bonus. So in order to get the bonus, you have to place basically something around. You have to fully surround them, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't worry about it this round. Hopefully we will be more successful next round. Next, we will deal with the mountain strips, which means we're removing the resource that's the farthest of the left. If there would now be only the silver coins available, the whole mountain strip would be removed. Next thing, we are adding an additional mountain strip here. We are populating this accordingly. I will do that off camera. So 4 wood, 2 stone and 2 coins. And last but not least, in a multiplayer game, we would be sending all our Vikings back home to their respective player boards. In the solo mode, that's somewhat different, because again, we want some challenge. So in the first round of the game, we will leave all those blue meeples out here, and in the second round of the game, we will be moving the secondary color onto our ting place here, and then we will be starting the next round of the game. We are getting more Vikings. So in the second round of the game, we will have 7 Vikings at our disposal. Isn't that lovely? We will still have an harvest now. In this case, we are getting again all the 1s, which definitely is nice. So 1, 1, and 1, and we are also getting the 2s. That's even cooler. So I think in this case it's is it grain, wheat, I don't know, something like that. Again, we can start to place things here on the board. The main problem now really is, you see that here, I can't put in the second flags here. If I would do that, I would have to place it like this. And again, I can't put orange next to orange. So I have to at least leave one space behind. And similarly here, I can't place orange next to orange. So ideally, I either get something red here in between, but in this case, I think I will go for the peas instead. So meat would have been perfect actually. Or, for example, I could place 2 coins in there. It's a little bit up to me. For now, I will leave it like this, but this definitely tells me I have to do something. And for every space, you will get a -3 victory point penalty at the end of the game. And you really don't want to do that. Next, we would be flipping one of the discovery cards, but again, we don't do that in the first 2 rounds of the game, which means we are drawing another weapon. And oh, it's another bow and arrow. And these, I believe there's no hand limit whatsoever in respect to these cards. Could be wrong, but I can't really. Usually are using them anyway, right? So that was that. And then again, we are moving into the actions phase. We have 7 Vikings, but as you can see here, we can't go for the second space here. This is blocked by our blue, let's call it opponent to some extent. Okay, so what are we going to do with that? Okay, that's a tricky one. And yeah, let me think this through, and then I will guide you through some of my actions. Okay, let's see. I think I have to go through another, let's call it preparational turn. I will start to send 3 Vikings over here because I'm going to the 3rd column. This allows me to draw an additional occupation card. And here we have found the Loot Hunter, which is another 1 victory point. And whenever we are pillaging, the, let's say, loot marker with the current highest sword value will be reduced by 1, which definitely does help us, especially with the Crown of England actually, which usually requires a 16. With that Loot Hunter, this would be a 15. Still difficult enough, but that's an additional 2 victory points. But so far we haven't done any progress whatsoever. I'm really playing this game extremely poorly, I can tell. But for now, we have to take this card into our hand. But because we went here to this space, we can either get 1 sheep for free or we get 1 cow for 1 coin. I think I want sheep now because of my ship architect, because with wood and wool we get a ship. And this is nice. Ship is 8 points on its own. Could be more. So we are taking our first sheep. Yeah, that's nice. They're 2-sided. One where they're expecting a child and one where they're not. This is 2 points, but we need some sheep at the end of this round. That much is clear. For now, we place it onto our player board and we'll be happy with that. Then I think I will do that with 2 meeples here, and we have to spend 1 silver. That was the main reason why I didn't want to spend that silver. No, I think we would have gained another silver. Yeah, that's still fine. So we are spending the 1, which gives us an additional sheep. And now as we will have 2 sheep at the end of this round, we will get a basically one of the sheep will get pregnant, and then yeah, next round we will get an additional sheep. This is how they more or less procreate. Definitely will help us, and will also help us with this action over here. So with 1, 2 or 3 sheep, we will get 1, 2 or 3 wool. That can be a nice thing, especially if we want to deal with our ship architect a little bit later. Nothing to worry about for this round because we are down to only 2 Vikings. And I think for the last 2 remaining Vikings, we are going here to the products. So we are getting 2 meat. And in case you're wondering, these things are double-sided, and this tells you basically their value. They start all on the orange side, which is the lowest value. Then you flip them to the other side. This is then red. The next one would be green, and then there is a blue side here as well. So in this case, we are really getting 2 meat, which we can later on use to feed our Vikings. And on top of this, we are getting 2 coins. We can get 2 single coins, or we get the 2. You can exchange them anytime you want. For now, I will go for 2 of these. So that is that, but that's also already the end of our round. Anyway, again, we would determine the starting player. We would gain some income. Again, we can't place anything. Again, we could now debate to place one of these tokens onto our player board to really start collecting some income, but I'm still not concerned if this is what we want to do, quite honestly. With 2 money, there is more we can do. No, I think for now I will hold on to this. Now our animals will procreate. And because we have at least 2 animals of the same type and both of them are not pregnant, we are flipping one to the pregnant side. The next time this one would flip back and then we would simply add another sheep. So I think this definitely did work out for us. So we increased our point value by 1 in this case. When they're flipping back, it's basically back to 2, but we're adding another sheep, which will then increase it to 6. You get the idea. Next, we will feast. Before we do, I will place 1 meat here onto the table. So we have again successfully fed our Vikings. We can simply remove them from the board, so we are not getting any penalties whatsoever. Nicely done. We would gain our bonuses. Unfortunately, we don't have any bonuses coming from our player board or anything else. So let's deal with the mountain strip. All the leftmost things are getting removed. We are adding 1 more in here. Okay, that's a tasty one actually. 2 wood, 1 stone and 2 iron. Okay, that's something we have to consider working towards too. I will populate that as well, basically off camera. And then last but not least, our Vikings are coming back home. This time they really do come home, but unfortunately it's only the blue ones which will be returned to our ting place, and then we are going back to the next round of the game. We are adding 2 more Vikings from the round. We are not getting a harvest in this case because, yeah, it's definitely bone dry year or so. I don't know. That was one of the problems with the Vikings. One of the reasons why they more or less strived into, let's say, foreign lands, pillaging and taking over lands because, yeah, they had some very harsh lands as far as I know. Anyway, we will be flipping our very first tile here. So the Shetland Isles are no longer available. This is now the Bear Island. Don't know what it is. And the bonus now, all the other, let's say, islands that weren't flipped will now get 1 silver coin. So when we explore those, we will get them as bonuses. Definitely worth considering. For now, let's not worry about that. Still, we may want to consider this round because I think we may be able to pull it off. We are still allowed to draw a random weapon. Okay, that's another snare. Really was hoping for some swords because you need swords to, let's say, to go pillaging and whatnot. And yeah, then we are finally moving again into the actions phase. For my first action, I'm definitely going on another hunt. This time we are a little bit better prepared. We have 3 bow and arrows, we have 3 wood, so hopefully we will be able to get something out of this. So let's bring back the Lego dice tower. We are rolling the die. That's a 4. We could try that with a 4, quite honestly, because we do have, but I think let's roll 1 more. Once more, that's a 2. I will stop here for sure. I will be spending 1 and 2 bow and arrows. This will drive it down to 0. Awesome. So these are gone for now. Well, they will get reshuffled, but the hunt was finally successful, which again means we are getting 1 fur. That is nice. We can definitely use it well, and we are getting 1 meat. I don't know what this is, but this is definitely a huge tile which we should be considering to upgrade relatively early on. Let's see how things go. But because we have the farmhand, we are getting an extra fur. That is nice, and an extra coin. Also very, very nice. So this finally paid off to some extent. Nicely done, Vikings. Next we will go into the mountains again, and I believe I will go here because this allows me to take 3 resources from any one mountain strip. I can, let's say, spread it over different mountains with this specifically 1 mountain strip, and I get 1 upgrade. That's really huge. So let's start with a mountain strip, and I certainly want to go for this 1, 2 and 3. So we are getting all these tasty resources here. Nicely done. This mountain strip is already immediately removed from the game. It doesn't really matter. Usually we would remove that at the end of the round, but Yeah, we can do that right away. We are still getting the one upgrade, and I believe I want to upgrade that game meat into the next color, which would be green. Again, it's from orange to red to green to blue. So in this case, we are upgrading it will remain the same size, so basically a 2x3 in this case. So we are getting skin and bones instead. So this is removed. Basically, we did successfully trade that. Let's put it like this. So we have gathered some skin and bones. Nicely done. And I think as a free action, I will immediately place this on my board here, because again, this allows me to gain some income at the end of the round. We are still not getting the free meat here. We could start working towards that, quite honestly, and maybe we might be able to pull it off because we have some coins and we do have the furry. I think we could pull it off. The next level is still a 2, but we will get the extra meat, and I think that's still worth it. In theory, you can start playing around. Once they are placed here for good, they are placed, but usually you are allowed to whatever wait until the end of the round. But before I forget, I think I want to do that as well. On this one here, you can't place green next to green, but you can place silver next to silver, for example. Blue, you are allowed to place blue next to blue, by the way. So the green are the little bit weaker ones, but in this case, let's exchange the 2 into 1 once actually. So we are covering it up. We are now allowed to cover this up because we have everything to the left and everything to the bottom of it covered up already with something else. This does count technically as being covered up. And again, I could have placed something on top of this, but again, I want the extra bonus at the end of the round. So we are now here. So in order to make it to the 3, we would now have to cover up at least these 4 spaces here. But okay, we are finally making some progress. I take that. Let's also not forget, we still have to feed our folks here. So I think I have to do something like this for now. Yeah, that is fine. So our Vikings will be fully fed at the end of the round, and we still have some resources left. Not too terrible. Okay, let's start to build some ships actually. I think we will want to have some ships. We are placing 2 Vikings here. We are spending 2 wood. This gives me one of these knors, I believe. There might be an English term for that, but I do not care. Right now it's 5 victory points. But we can use it for all kinds of stuff, including the emigration. If we are successfully emigrating, it will basically convert into 18 points. So that's really something worth considering. We still have 2 Vikings left. And with 1, I think we are going to explore. We can now with 1, and we have to have at least 1 whaler or 1 gnor or 1 dragon boat. We have 1 of those anyway. So we can go to Shetland or the Faroe Island. And I think I want the Faroe Island actually, because they could help me a little bit later on. So let's do that. So we are taking this massive board, placing it somewhere next to our main board. It did come with 1 coin. That was the 1 coin that was added when we flipped it to the other side, when we flipped the, I think, what was it, Shetland? Yeah, Shetland Isle. And we can now basically explore here as well. And that works very similar to the main game board here as well. So we can't place green next to green, but blue next to blue. We can coins next to coin. We can put iron ore on these spaces here as well. We have 1 right now. But this is also used for all kinds of other stuff. And I think in this case, we can actually start to place stuff in here, because this will already increase our income by 1 as well. And we could get some peace if we somehow manage to surround it. And we do have the coins for that, quite honestly. And getting some extra peace throughout the game, we are still, let's say, early enough. It could make sense actually. So I'm really considering to do that. So in order to do that, we would have to do something like this. We are not increasing our income, but we are getting extra bonuses. And again, getting these bonuses just to feed your Vikings or so is usually not a bad deal. Yeah, let's do that for now. And we still have 1 more meeple left, or Viking left. It's a Viking, it's not a meeple. And I believe with this Viking, we are again going to one of these mountain strips for now. So we're getting 2 from 1. And in this case, I think I want 2 more wood, so we are opening up, oh, the iron ore, because this will be removed at the end of the round. Yeah, I think this works out to be very nice for us, actually. Okay, I think now those were all our actions. Again, no starting player, but we are starting to collect some income. Finally, so we are getting 2 coins here and 1 coin here for a total of 3 coins. That isn't terrible at all. I take it. We are finally making some progress. Nicely done. Next, our animals will procreate. So this was pregnant. We are flipping it back to the normal side. We are adding an extra sheep like this. So the next time the sheep will be again pregnant and so on, we are adding more and more sheep throughout the game. Nice. I'm making a mess here. Okay. Then we have to feast. And again, we are fine here. Nicely done. We are removing all of the fine food here respectively. And now we are getting some bonuses. Finally as well. It's not an awful lot. We are getting 1 meat here, and over here we are getting some peas. But this will definitely help us for the next round where we will have to feed our Vikings. Let's deal with the mountain strip here respectively. We are adding 1 more. Oof, and here I'm not 100% sure now. Are we adding mountain strips every time or only when we are removing one? No, I think I'm good. I'm good here. So we're adding 3 more wood, 2 stone, 1 iron ore, and 2 more coins. And then ultimately we are removing bringing the yellow Vikings back to our main game board, and then we would be starting the next round of the game. But I think for today I will call it. I will certainly keep going. I should be able to complete my playthrough in the second episode. We have basically 4 more rounds. 4 more rounds including this one here. So we're adding again 2 more Vikings to the board. Again, more and more choices will get revealed here, or will unfold. But of course we also have to really start doing something here to really start covering up those spaces. But again, the more Vikings we have, the more cards we have, the more resources we have, the easier I really hope things will get. But yeah, don't count on it on a win. Again, 100 points is the goal. But I think it's really not easy, especially if you haven't played the game for quite a while. Anyway, I really hope you are enjoying my little playthrough of A Feast for Odin here. I really like this game a lot. The one, let's say, downside to this game when you're playing a multiplayer game is it's really not very... there is not a lot of interaction. Let's put it like this. Yes, you are blocking some spaces here. In a 4-player game, there are even some doubling spaces where you can use it, so even that is being, let's say, somewhat mitigated. But there's really an awful lot that you can do, and yeah, you can take these islands away from each other, and these tiles are also limited and whatnot. But apart from that, it's very much of a multiplayer solo experience. And what's even more, let's say, call it problematic, is the puzzle aspect here. When you're playing a full 4-player game, if you know the game, then I think you are set. You start to look ahead and you start to place these tiles during basically your downtime while you're waiting. If you're playing this with newer players, things can really take a while. Yeah, again, there is really not a lot of interaction here, but maybe that's the nature of a Rosenberg game. I don't really know. Anyway, I really enjoy this game. I really hope you do too. And before I forget, huge shout out to all of my patrons and channel members. It's basically thanks to them I'm doing this playthrough here. So thanks so much for your confirmation here. And yeah, with that being said, hope to see you soon in one of my other videos. And yeah, until then, bye bye.